doing tonight, everybody?
Good.
Thank you guys all for joining us for one of Door County's oldest traditions, a historic Door County fish boil. I'm the boil master here at the old post office. I do every single fish boil here at the restaurant, which is about 400 fish boils every summer. So I was also born and raised right here in beautiful Door County. So I'll tell you guys all about the fish boil, starting with the fish we use. Fish are fresh, local caught, lake fishing and whitefish. Fish are caught from the waters that surround the Door Peninsula, both lakeside and bayside, depending on the time of year. Right now, most of the fishing is done on the bay. We buy all of our fish from local fishermen right here in Door County. All the fish we're serving tonight were caught yesterday morning, about 3 miles off of Ellison Bay Bluff, and whitefish are sitting at about 100 feet deep water. So walk around, I'll show you what they look like real quick. If you've never been to a fish boil before, obviously this is a dining experience, and this is not a whitefish fillet like you may be thinking of. This is an old rustic Scandinavian meal. This is a whitefish steak, basically a chunk of whitefish, which means all the bones are in the fish, which may throw some of you off. However, the servers come by your table as soon as you sit down, and they quickly and efficiently debone your fish steaks for you right in front of you, so don't worry about any bones in your fish. Servers come by to get them out for you. Takes them just seconds, so don't worry about the bones. Also, too, there's almost 90 people at this fish boil. This is only a third of the fish. I have 2 more baskets of fish loaded up like this. I come out and cook them when you folks head in. The reason being, we service something like a buffet. That way, if you're at the middle or the end of the line, you still get fresh, hot cooked whitefish when you get up to the buffet table. So there's no need to rush in right away after the boil over, thinking you're going to get some old fish. So, also, if you want a picture of these, have your cameras ready because I got to keep moving. Everything on a fish boil is timed. So, there they are. Caught yesterday.
Get the video if you want to do it for
It's rustic, skin on, bone in. But this is delicious if you've never eaten it before. Looking good.
So that's whitefish.
Crap.
What?
This keeps auto doing in the fucking video. This is like the 3rd time.
Caught yesterday. Every day they go fishing outside. These will go on for about 7 minutes. It should be right about now. My timing's on. 7:11, pretty close. Good. All right, now if you've never been to a fish boil before, obviously this is a dining experience to say the least. Door County is definitely home to the fish boil. We've been doing traditional fish boils here at the old post office since 1978. Now it's our 41st year doing fish boils out back here. I've been doing it for the restaurant for the last 5 years. We do fish boils in any type of weather conditioning. We don't close down for bad weather. So if it rains out here, I come out here and still do all this stuff like I normally would. However, no one really comes out to watch in a rainstorm. So but we still do it rain or shine. Now before you guys get here, I fill the kettle up with 35 gallons of water, 3 cups of salt go into the water. Salt is the only seasoning you put into a fish boil. That seasons everything, fish, potatoes, and onions. You get your fire burning. It takes about a half hour to get this water to boil. Once the water's boiling, you start your timer at 30 minutes. Each fish boil takes a half an hour. Potatoes go in the kettle first for the whole half hour. Onions go in the kettle second. Fish go in for the last 7 minutes. And like I said, the fish we use for fish boils here in Door County are locally caught Lake Michigan whitefish. They're caught from the waters that surround the Door Peninsula, both lakeside and bayside, depending on the time of year. And we buy all these fish from local fishermen right here in Door County. We get fresh fish delivered every single day. Rick Johnson is a fisherman from Gills Rock. He's been bringing us fresh whitefish for almost 40 years now. So just about every single morning, spring, summer, fall, rain or shine, him and his crew get into their boat. They go into their whitefish nets. All the nets get pulled in by a mechanical winch. The fish get taken back to their little processing facility in Gills Rock. That's where they clean all the whitefish. They head them, gut them, tail them, and scale them there. And then just about every single day between 3 and 4 o'clock, they'll bring fresh whitefish, drop them right off at the back door of the restaurant. So we get them delivered right from the guy who catches them just about every single day. He'll also cut your fish up for you if you'd like. He's got a machine that does it, cuts them up like this. Or you can buy the fish whole and cut them up all yourself. Well, we do buy our fish whole, and then I hand cut them all myself with a razor sharp knife. Right before I bring them out here, drop them in the kettle. It's the best way to do a fish boil. If you cut the fish up right before they go in there. Reason being, if you buy them already cut up, or cut them up yourself ahead of time, they start to drain all their natural fluids out. They dry up on you and shrink, and then they just don't cook up nearly as nice. Plus, he uses a bandsaw blade to cut them. I use a big razor sharp knife so they get a cleaner cut. So not only are they juicier, they taste better, but they look a lot nicer too. So it's just a better way to do it. So on an average summer, I'll cut up and boil over 35,000 pounds of whitefish. That's just this fish boil restaurant. So that is a ton of fish. Now the fish boil, this itself is an old Scandinavian tradition. This was started off by Swedish and Norwegian immigrants back in the 1800s up here in Door County. Northern Door County is very rich in Scandinavian heritage. You kind of see up here? Well, the fish boil is a part of our old Scandinavian heritage as well. Now, most of the Swedes and Norwegians who came here during the 1800s, they were homesteaders. They got free land by the U.S. government, basically just to move up to the area to establish growth to the upper Great Lakes. Now, some of the men, when they arrived, they were fishermen, but the majority of the men who came here, they worked as loggers. The Door Peninsula itself was heavily forested. The water, the natural harbors that surround Door County, made ideal conditions for logging companies. They could send huge steamships up here to Door County. The ships could load up on tons and tons of harvested logs. They'd float those logs back down to growing cities like Green Bay, Milwaukee, Chicago, all connected to Door County by water. Now, I don't think the fish boil was ever meant to become a tourist attraction like it is today, to say the least, as this would have been done in logging camps and fishing villages back in the 1800s up here in Door County. Basically, this was an easy way to feed the hordes of Scandinavian immigrants who were starting to settle up here on the Door Peninsula. When they arrived, this was a remote, rugged peninsula on Lake Michigan. There was plenty of fish in the water. You had fresh fish, potatoes, onions, butter, salt. Big kettle like this, you can do fish boils. And like I said, this would have been used to feed logging camps and fishing villages and all the tiny little communities that dotted the Door Peninsula back in the 1800s. So that's how the fish boils started off. It wasn't until around the turn of the century people started to appreciate all the natural beauty we have up here in Door County. They quit logging the forests. They started designating lands for state parks, including Peninsula State Park, which is straight across that harbor. And they started to build and open the very first hotels and resorts for tourists, including the Edgewater right behind me, opened in the year 1900. So it was one of the first hotels to open here in the village of Ephraim. So right around that time, Door County started getting its first tourists. Unlike today, where we get over 2 million visitors up here every summer, if you came to Door County back in the early 1900s, you came up here by steamship. They didn't have any roads built north of Sturgeon Bay until the early 1920s, so they started bringing tourists up here from Chicago and Milwaukee during the summertime on steamships. And if you did come all the way up here from Chicago on a steamship back in the old days, you didn't come up here for a long weekend or a day trip like people do nowadays. Most of the guests who came up here spent a couple of weeks to a couple of months up here in the summertime. What they did for a couple of months up here 100 years ago, that's a question that I don't know, but I do know that you rarely left your hotel room or your hotel back in the old days, and they cooked all your meals for you. Some of the hotels and resorts started doing fish boils for their guests as a fun way to show the city folks an old Scandinavian tradition, and that's how the tradition was born here in Door County. We've basically been doing fish boils for tourists the exact same way ever since. So you can see this tradition does go back well over a century. It's definitely one of Door County's oldest traditions, and you can date this all the way back to the very first European settlers up here in Door County. And it is a pretty cool thing that something like this is still being done the traditional way up here, but in Door County it's kind of one of our oldest traditions. It's been grandfathered in over the last century. Still do it the same way it's always been done. Now, the last thing you do in a fish boil before you eat it is the boil over. You get all this stuff cooking in this kettle, well, you get a big thick layer of foam, scum, and ash from the fire that simmers to the surface of the kettle. So, somebody somewhere along the way came up with the boil over technique where you take a big can of kerosene, throw it onto the fire, makes a giant fireball, but it also makes the kettle boil over, and all this scum and gunk from the top actually goes right along with it. It actually works quite genius. After I do that, in about a minute and 30 seconds, you folks are going to walk back in between the two buildings, enter the restaurant through the front door. The whole thing is served like a buffet. Everyone gets fresh fish, potatoes, and onions. You put melted butter all over that, homemade bread, homemade coleslaw, and a slice of Door County cherry pie for dessert. If you've never eaten this before, it is delicious. It'll probably be one of the most memorable meals you've ever eaten in your life as well. Also on your way through, if you're new to Door County, grab one of my flyers. I was born and raised here on the peninsula. I printed off a bunch of places to visit while you're here. Definitely check out Fred and Fuzzy's Waterfront Bar and Grill for a cherry margarita and a sunset. You can even go there tonight after the fish boil. Great place to watch the sunset. And if you've never seen Door County by water, I always recommend that to new people as well. The shoreline that surrounds our peninsula is some of the most stunning scenery in the entire country. Fish Creek Scenic Boat Tours and Sister Bay Scenic Boat Tours both do multiple tours a day. Kids ride free on both boats. They're both easy and excellent and affordable ways to see the peninsula by water. Highly recommended by myself. If you've never seen Door County by water, try to get on a boat. Also, we tip kettle tips are always appreciated. Thank you for that. Camera's ready. You got about 14 seconds. I'll throw the kerosene bomb on. And you guys get to go inside and eat. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, God.
Opa.
All right.
My phone just melted.
I got it.